Welcome everybody to the Keys to Wisdom channel. So here in this video, what we're going to do is explore the chronological order and membership amount of NATO from 1949 to the current time, and also eventually talk about some possibilities into the future. And we're going to also compare it to the charge states within the word and the story that is told within the word along the alphabetical lines which the NATO membership and expansion is playing upon. So in 1949 we've got the 12 founding members: Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, United Kingdom, and United States, right? Founded at the 12, like so many of the different things, right, in the world. 1952, it jumps to 14 with Greece and Turkey. 1955, it jumps to 15 with West Germany, which became Germany in 1990 when the reunification of Western and Eastern Germany occurred. In 1982, it goes to 16 with the addition of Spain. In 1999, it goes to 19 with the addition of Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland. And in 2004, it goes to 26 with the additions of Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia. And at this point now, at the 26, it fulfills the completion of the A, B to Z alphabet. And for the first time since its inception, it goes, in terms of the word, into the Zion territory. So it began in 1949, Zion charged, and in 2004, when the 2004, when the 26th member was added, the pole shift, it's in the Zion territory. Now, just like our calendars don't use the 27, we got the A, B to Z 1 to 26 alphabet. The calendars don't use the 27, they only use 28, 29, 30, and 31. Well, they're doing the same thing here. Our months are all alphabetic, and they've got the same thing going on. So in 2009, they jumped to 28 with the additions of Albania and Croatia. February 2017 is the leap year edition at 29 with Montenegro. 2020, they go into 30 with North Macedonia. All the months ending in 30, and then in 2023, they go to 31 with the addition of Finland, which now officially completes the first script, which is the first and the second character only, and the second script, which is the characters 3 to 31. And in 2024, they add Sweden to the first position in the third script. And it's ironic that they give up their neutrality and safety and all of the advantages that they had from being that way, and that their citizens had, to go away from it, but they're in the 32nd slot, which is a slot of neutrality. It's actually where the 5th vowel resides. A lot of people think there's 5 vowels within our A, B to Z 1 to 26 script. It's only 4. If you have the ears to hear, you can listen to them and hear it. A, E, I, O, unblocked air from the front to all the way through the middle to the back. That's vowels, names of vowels, and then there's a U, and it's got the Y is stuck on U, air block in the front. But the reason it's in the alphabet, and they try to teach everybody that there's 5 vowels, is because of this position here of 32, where Sweden resides. And then if you've been around this channel learning it all, you understand that the 33rd position is a highly charged Zion cliffstone, and that would be with the values 105, 501. Immediately when they add the 33rd member, it takes the originally Zion founded NATO organization right back into Zion territory. At least I believe it does. We're gonna check it right now. So now we're gonna go along this, the E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. So here is where the original 12 membership stands. Zion charged, the original 12. All groups of 12, Zion charged, right? Minus 180, Zion charged. Then they jump on to 14, which would be the M and the M. Again, minus 180, Zion charged. Then the O jumped on, Zion charged. 1955, West Germany, that later became Germany after the reunification. The P comes on, that won't change the charge, but it's Zion charged. 1982. Now we got Q, R, and S. Again, that minus 180 charge. Zion. There is in 1999 with 19 members. And then P, U, V, W, X, Y, right? I don't know if they added them all at the same time or progressively during 2004 or not, but at the end of that, now it's become a Zion charged membership in 2004 at 26 members. Now the equivalent of 27 is VE. The equivalent of 28 is WE. And these are Zion-based characters, so now we're quite a bit higher in terms of Zion. That's 2009. I'm going to put them together. The spaces will be where each gap is. And then we'll use EX for the 29th character, 2017, Zion. And then we'll use JT for the 30th character, 2020, Zion. And we'll use KT for 2023, Finland, 31. So at this point, what are we looking at? Plus 216. Plus 216. Zion, the 32nd character, representative of Sweden. There's no way to make these characters in the third script out of these first and second script letters. Let me see, maybe 55. No, can't do it. Can't make any of them, so we have to calculate it on our own. So we'll go 1761. I would need a setup where I could use both forwards and reverse letters at the same time and start constructing the values into the third script to be calculated by this Clues app. So 1761 1545. It's going to be the same, plus 216. Zion. And that's where the organization is at right now. But everything about this war that threatens humanity, steals from everybody in the world, where there's been constant lies told about it over and over. It's just the absolute sickening bullshit going on with Ukraine. It was toppled when NATO and the West invaded in 2014, funded the coup, and violently overthrew the democratically elected government through violence. But of course, their narrative was that that is a just revolution, and that overthrowing the democratically elected government there was the right thing. And they say that Russia began invading Ukraine in 2014 when they annexed Crimea, even though Russia, there was no shots fired, nobody killed, and there was an election in Crimea in 2014, and they peacefully and willfully joined Russia. While for Ukraine to join NATO, they had to commit atrocities, a ton of bloodshed, and go against the will of the majority of the people to go with the West, to go towards trying to become a NATO member and a member of the Western society of basically scumbags at this point. So now this 33rd member, whoever it may be, and it's not set in stone, and hopefully there will be membership withdrawals from NATO at this point, so that we do not go to that 33 edition, which is representative of all hell breaking loose and returning to the spirit of Zion, where NATO began, right? And the best bet for one pulling out and stopping it so it doesn't ever go into that realm of Zion at the 33rd Cliffstone would be if the United States pulling out and then the whole thing falling apart. But others possibly pulling out, those like Hungary, Slovakia, and others who have been tremendously harmed by these current actions in Ukraine, though that goes across the board. I mean, probably Germany has been more harmed than probably anybody else out of this, right? The amount of damage done to Germany from this sicko Ukraine bullshit, and it is just out of this world. But if they do come on now, because it's a much bigger charge than 216 at the 33rd NATO member, the charge of NATO the pole is going to shift again. All right, so it's going to be what, 1761 plus 105 would be 1866, and 501 will be 2046. So the charge will now be, is that the negative 180? Sure looks like it, don't it? 2046 minus 1866. Negative 180. Same charge it began with. Let's take that and show it. 465 minus 285 minus 180. 33rd character consecutive in a row will bring it to minus 180 itself. If they have a 34th member, which, if this monstrosity continues, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed that if Ukraine comes in, you're probably going to have Moldova come in, Bosnia, and Hertz. I highly doubt Georgia will come in, but then everything starts really going haywire. So 34 is the 109, 901. Then the charge at 34 is going to be, let's see, 1966, 1975. And then it'd be 2947. It's 2947. Minus 1975. Minus 972. Thirty-fifth character. We won't count them, but another scion charge, 113, 311. 36th member, 117, 711. So this nasty scion charge that it began with, this alliance, just grows and grows and grows the more that they add, right? And it's massively symbolic to the story that's told within the word. And the way that they use it, the way that they set it up was started with 12, very significant. The way that they complete the A, B to Z alphabet, the 26 letters in 2004, significant. The way they skip 27, go right to 28, like the calendar, significant. And then they use every single one of the calendars dates that they use, 28, 29, February, 30, the other months, and then the 31, right? The 5 trees of paradise, they use 4 of them, but they skip that 27, just like the calendar systems do. So there's a huge word story here about the NATO membership and the enlargement. And in 1990, when the Cold War ended, the Berlin Wall was taken down, and it was agreed upon to allow Germany to reunite and for the Soviet Union to dissolve. There was straight up a promise made that NATO would not move 1 inch eastward. And there were 16 members of NATO at that time. And since then, NATO has doubled to now the 32 members from the 16 at the time when that promise was made. And the realization, the reality of many of these additions are that they didn't make anybody safer anywhere. They made everything more dangerous. Right? When they add these little Baltic shitholes like Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, these little shitholes bring danger to the alliance members that were already in there, and they don't bring any safety. The drawbacks upon having them versus not having them are versus what they bring by having them. It's just massive, and they're like little attack dogs now, right? These little shithole Baltic nations are in totality smaller than big cities in other real nations. And they're tiny, and they have absolutely no power or anything. No ability to defend themselves or anything. But because they're now part of NATO, they run their mouth. They start constant shit with their neighbors. They have joined in attacking Russian ethnic Russians and Russian speakers, just like Ukraine did immediately after that 2014 coup. And their leaders constantly try to start shit with Russia as little lapdogs, right? Little ankle biter, loudmouth lapdogs. Even though, if any type of conflict begins, their populations are guaranteed to be absolutely pulverized and destroyed. Their behavior is totally treasonous to their populations, right? Their populations will be absolutely destroyed along with their little shithole countries in any type of conflict. But they won't. The ones running their mouth, the treasonous leaders out of those areas, right? They'll definitely get on some planes and get out of those nations, while the nations and all their citizens get absolutely pulverized by the conflict, right? They'll wind up in some bunkers in Western Europe or other places in NATO nations far away from the absolute destruction that is going on to their people, right? And then they'll run around the world asking for money and begging for shit in safety, whining and dining on the finest foods, and being treated like they're absolute heroes like Zelensky, while the common people are being absolutely decimated and enslaved, which conscription is enslaved, right? And they're all doing this shit even though that none of their people have a will to fight in any of these wars. These nations, especially in Europe, they don't even have the ability to get people to really volunteer for their military services in peacetime, let alone wars, right? And that's why they're all talking about conscription, which is enslavement, just like Ukraine. And they like to think that if they get the war started, that they're pushing and intentionally trying to start. And if it does start, they started it in 2014 when NATO and the West invaded Ukraine. All right, their plan will be to do the same thing as Zelensky, to become complete military martial law dictators, suspend all elections, hold all power, disallow all people from having speech against their war policies, and they'll send people to kidnap unwilling participants off the street to enslave them into the war, just like Zelensky is doing. And they'll gladly fund the enslavement and extermination of their own citizens, like they're all funding the enslavement and extermination of the Ukrainian citizens. They have no volunteers. They haven't had for a long time. They have to send out people to grab these poor guys off the streets, even old men. It's just sickening shit that they're doing. And then they constantly lie about the amount of people that have been killed and injured already defending Ukraine. It's millions and millions of people. Millions dead, millions injured, and the vast majority of all of them are people who were enslaved and forced into fighting this war against their will by these people who want to try to tell everybody they're the good guys. They're the good, and they're fighting against the evil. I mean, this is just wicked, sickening shit. And the NATO organization has now gotten to the point where absolutely nobody in the world, no citizens in any of the member states have any benefits, any security from it, All it does now is bring drawbacks to absolutely everybody involved with NATO, except for the corrupted scumbag leaders of the NATO nations. Those who will be able to avoid the atrocities of the wars that they're intentionally starting, right? But in terms of all the citizens everywhere, nobody benefits, right? I'm a United States of America citizen, and I have no benefits from the United States being a member of NATO whatsoever. It only brings me danger, and it has only brought me massive amounts of money being stolen from myself and the other citizens and taxpayers here. Right? NATO has never, the other nations have never paid their weight. The United States' citizens have absolutely been fleeced in terms of providing the majority of the funding for all the defense of this damn alliance. And now the alliance is so far out of control and has added so many rotten members that being in the alliance is now more dangerous than ever before. There's absolutely no benefits to it. The drawbacks of being a member of NATO is by far outweigh any of the fucking benefits that come from it. And while I can't speak for the citizens of all the other nations, when I look out at the situation everywhere, right, I'm like most Americans, I'm kind of a mutt in terms of nationalities, right? But I'm ethnically German, Irish, and Scottish in terms of the mix that I have in terms of my ancestry, and so I guess I could speak a little bit on that in terms of Germany. When I look at Germany, I see absolutely no benefits of being a member of NATO, nothing but drawback. And then also, right, because of all the fleecing that was going on of the American citizens in the free ride and everything that was given to Germany and these others by Americans spending all of their money on the weapons and deployments of soldiers and all this bullshit in Europe, right? Even in those times, they were harmed by the situation because rather than preparing like a normal nation to have ability to defend themselves, they took the damn free ride for so long that they have nothing, right? And the entire time when all of the prosperity in Europe was propped up and given to them by the cheap and reliable Russian energy, they never got anything done with it at those times. And now that time is over. They're disconnected off of that. They're never to return to the prior era where you had great availability to cheap and reliable energy and great availability of fairly cheap and reliable resources. Now there is nothing but very expensive and unreliable energy, and the same thing with the resources, very expensive and unreliable resources. So the period of being able to be independent and self-functioning in terms of being able to defend yourself is all gone, right? That's long gone. And now if they're trying to be forced into spending all this money and everything, it's become a virtually impossible task. And if you do go about doing it and spending those types of money and with all the amounts of money that have been lost on Ukraine to this point and will continue to be lost on Ukraine and they're going to have to cut all benefits, all everything. The amount of the citizens are going to pay the massive price, right? And these rich scumbags who have led them into this oblivion, right? I guess since 1955, the membership with NATO, and really led them even worse into oblivion since 1990, and massively worse into oblivion since 2014 in the coup that went down in Ukraine. Right, those rich motherfuckers, they'll do all right, and when the war starts, they won't be casualties, and they won't feel the pain from it. They'll get enriched even more, but it'll all be on the backs of the citizens. So there's no benefit. There's more drawback to Germany from the whole time of being part of NATO, and right now there's way more risk. Well, I can't say that. The reality is, like, if a country like Germany tomorrow said, no, we're pulling out of NATO, fuck this shit, we're going our own way, we're gonna do everything that we can to be an independent nation and able to defend ourselves on our own, they would immediately be attacked and toppled, and it wouldn't even, it wouldn't even be a possibility, right? So maybe there is, in terms of Germany, more benefit being part of NATO than not be, because of the repercussions of what would happen when NATO, everybody would attack them over trying to do it, right? They're not like the USA, who can easily leave the NATO organization. Nobody can do anything about it except for cry and bitch a little bit, right? And none of them, the whole lot of them couldn't jump on the USA and do anything about it. But some little shithole like Germany, because of the mismanagement that has occurred to Germany, because it's basically been a vassal state ever since World War II, right? And they didn't do any of the right things in the windows of opportunity to do it, and now they're involved in this coup that has totally destroyed the future of that for them to be able to do anything, right? They couldn't exit out of it. The UK probably could wind up getting out of it, because the USA probably wouldn't let anybody beat the hell out of them like they would gladly join in and beat the hell out of Germany. Maybe France could get out. Some of these others, they probably couldn't get out. Hungary could definitely say, we're getting out. Well, they'd immediately be attacked, overthrown, and taken back over. Slovakia, pretty much all of the nations that tried to get out would do that, would have that happen to them. So really, basically, it probably comes down to this, for this not to happen in terms of the story of the word and what the whole Zionist evil destruction thing within the word and within the NATO membership means, would be for the USA to somehow get out of it. Now, but it's a farce for people to believe that the USA is a democracy. It's not a democracy. If they gave us a vote tomorrow on terms of being members of NATO or not, in true democracy form, in terms of direct democracy, we would not be, we would immediately vote for leaving NATO right now as a people. But we're not a real democracy. They have a representative democracy that's rigged by an oligarchy of people who fund the elections and basically control them all. We have 100 U.S. senators, so many the president, the vice president, some of the higher members of the cabinet, 12 Supreme Court justices, and then the members of the House, so many hundreds. So really there's like, I forget the exact amount, but there's about 600 people that decide everything in the USA. All 600 of them their positions are bought and paid for by oligarchy and the different lobbies and cabals in the USA. They make the decisions, and then they use a guise that says we're a democracy, right? You voted for those people, right? But there's not even any options. It's worse, I believe, in Europe with all the multi-party system that they've got is even worse. But here, it's a very bad system, and it's controlled and it's rigged, and there's really nobody ever to vote for here. It's because the left and the right here are just absolute scumbags in terms of the political class, which is the same thing in Europe. The absolute worst, most rotten people that you do not want to be leading anywhere, they're the ones that are leading in the United States, Canada, all of Europe, most of the world, right? And it is absolutely nowhere even close to democracy. Whenever they say, just like Ukraine is such a fictitious fucking democracy, we're defending democracy, you invaded and destroyed democracy there, that you took down their elected leader. You didn't go through an election process. You used violence and force, and Western funds paid for that to happen in Ukraine. Right? You're not defending fucking democracy. You're defending a tyranny. They try to say that all those elections in Crimea and the elections that occurred in the other oblasts that are now part of Russia by the will of the people that live there, they said, oh, those are not valid elections because they were held after a forceful occupation occurred, right? Crimea was autonomous from Ukraine prior to 2014. Western people had come in and done polls, and in every single one of the polls, the very last option of the Crimeans was to be part of Ukraine. They wanted to either be in a totally independent nation or a part of Russia, and they wanted nothing to do with being a part of Ukraine. Before the coup, they were already autonomous, self-governing region. After the coup, the people in Donetsk and Luhansk also wanted to become autonomous and not under the new government after the violent overthrow there, who was trying to shut down their ability to speak their native language, because most of the people there, 80–90%, are native Russian speakers in this area. They didn't want to be attacked and oppressed by the people that the West had installed in their violent coup. But they try to say that those elections in those areas don't have any legitimacy. But they say that the elections after the violent overthrow of the democratically elected Ukrainian government have legitimacy. No, they don't, because the invasion was from NATO. Right? The invasion was from NATO in 2014, and then the people that they installed were a hostile government. The elections in Ukraine are the ones that were illegitimate. Like I said, it was behind force and violence and killing many peoples and massacres, and in the Ukraine coup, and in Crimea it was totally peaceful. No shots were fired. Nobody had to be killed or anything. The people were all with it. And the people all voted the same way that they had believed prior to the 2014 coup. And everybody who's truthful in the West knows it. They all know Crimea was not part of Ukraine. It was an autonomous region running itself. It had no desire to be part of Ukraine. It wanted to be independent or part of Russia. And of course, being part of Russia brings more protection and security than being on their own, because they'll be going after, like Moldova and Georgia and these other little shitholes, Estonia, all these places who are little and tiny, right? And that's why they broke up Yugoslavia too, so they could manhandle and set up future conflicts in the Balkanized areas, right? And that's what they'd like to do to Russia too, is try to balkanize and break it down into small areas so they can go in and exploit it and do all the nasty shit that they fucking do to everybody, right? If Crimea became a little independent nation, well, it wouldn't be that long, and the West would weasel their way in, and they would have the shit kicked out of them, and they'd wind up just as screwed as the citizens in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, those other little shitholes. Just like the people in Moldova, and the way they're trying to make the people in Georgia, right? You're just too small, you can't do anything, and that big power from the West comes in, spending their money. Bunch of traitors within your ranks have no problem taking that money and look forward to trying to overthrow the nation so that they can get in on that gravy train of money that'll start coming in, like it has been in Ukraine ever since that 2014 coup, right? And they'll gladly do this shit and have tons and tons of their citizens wiped out through the conflict that they created when they're committing treason against their nation, just like Zelensky and those bastards do in Ukraine right now. They don't give a shit. They'll lie to the world and say a tiny little amount of people have been dead and injured, while it's millions of people have been dead and injured, right? They don't give one fucking rat's ass about those people, right? Zelensky doesn't give a shit that there's fucking old men who are enslaved and forced into trenches, women, pregnant women, all kind of different crazy shit, retarded people, disabled people, forced into fighting against their will, while his fit military age fucking man jets around eating lobster and all kind of other fucking bullshit, right? He's not gonna go to the fucking front so a 70-year-old man can go home, or some fucking lady can go home, right? He would gladly keep taking that money and doing his shit right down to the last Ukrainian man, because he'll be the last Ukrainian man, and then he'd surrender, right? If it was a fucking came down to it and it was Zelensky, if you want to keep this war going, you go immediately to the front line, into the trenches. Tomorrow you'd have fucking peace. He would change his fucking tune in a heartbeat, because he would never do what he is enslaving and forcing the people to do, just like the other fucking leaders all across the EU and these NATO nations. They would never do it. They would never allow their family to fucking do the shit that they're willing to enslave the citizens and force them into doing. Those fucking scumbags who run Estonia, Latvia, they will fucking be out of there. Them and their fucking families will be long gone out of that war zone when they bring that war up in destruction upon all of the other fucking citizens that they don't give a fucking rat's ass about. So, with all this being said, I just wanted to fucking come in here and show the relation between the order of membership in NATO with the order and the charges and what's going on within the word. Show the different similarities, right? Because there's really nobody else in the world that can show anybody what the meanings of the movement across the orders actually are, right? People can all look and see that 1949 NATO started with 12 members, and see the movement to 2024 when NATO's got 32 members now, right? But nobody has the ability to relate it to what is going on in terms of the charges of Sion and Zion like I do. So I'm putting it out here and showing you what's going on with the whole Sion NATO based operation. And this follows up my use of the video I did about turning domination into Domini NATO, which in Latin means born to be the Lord. Right? Born to lord over the others. Born to conquer. Victoria Newland. the Mistress Newland, the dominatrix Terra Nova, sent into Ukraine for that coup in 2014 from that corrupted ass scumbag Obama administration that funded it all with their corrupted ass EU, NATO, other NATO member states, right? That's what's in this word domination. Domini NATO, right? Born to be the Lord. My fucking ass. Fuck you. Cease and desist. It's time for the United States to pull out of this fucking shit and stop this order before it goes into fucking 33, the Cliffstone, because everybody in the world is gonna pay dearly, dearly, dearly if NATO goes into that Cliffstone of 33 and beyond. It's just nothing but horror for everybody in the world. The USA needs to pull the fuck out and let this piece of shit fucking organization cease to exist and end these fucking hostilities and end this path of fucking destruction for all of the common citizens of the world. Right? These rich scumbag loser assholes running everything, they'll be alright, but it's the people who are paying, and we're already paying dearly. Everybody is suffering everywhere in the world because of their fucking sicko bullshit that they started in Ukraine in 2014. It's bullshit. It needs to fucking end, and the USA needs to pull out of this crap and stop this fucking order from advancing beyond 32 into the fucking abyss, into the fucking oblivion of all of the futures of the common people of the world. So with that being said, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you think that's something you should do. And have a nice day.